Can you hear me now?
We're based out of Marshall, Texas. Started there. I've been with the club 13 years as the executive director. Side note, former Rotarian, former assistant governor twice, under his dad once and under John Henson once. So I've been with know the familiar, know the four-way test and stuff, try to live my life that way. Let me start off by telling you before I get into all this. Before I say anything, I'll talk about, I'm a nonprofit, I'm going to talk about money. I'm not asking anybody for money. When I bring up money stuff, I'm not here to ask, I'm here to educate. The other thing is I refer a lot to what I did, when I say that, I'm talking, I want you guys to know that, but I'm very lucky enough to have an amazing group of board of directors, local council people, and people who work with me at the club, and it's very collective. The things that we're doing for kids throughout East Texas wouldn't happen if I didn't have the people with me. So when I say, when I started, it's not just, that's when I started. It's not a me thing, believe me. It's my everybody who's been a part of it. It's a wonderful effort. But I will tell you about me. I moved here in 2005 to East Texas from San Diego. My dad was a Charger, a San Diego Charger for 10 years. Lived out there, went to college, graduated with a degree in child psychology from UC San Diego. Got into sports. I never used my child psychology degree. Got into sports. The whole thing about what you know, who you know thing, I was lucky enough to know some people who later got involved in sports. And my minor was in communications. So I worked with my first radio gig was with the first dream team, like Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson and Charles Barkley. My slow pitch softball team, my first baseman was a guy by the name of Tim Purpura. And for any of you guys who might be baseball fans, Tim Purpura was the former general manager of the Houston Astros, who gave Jeff Bagwell the first big $100 million contract kind of thing. He got me in with the San Francisco Giants and the Oakland A's, so I worked for them for a while. I got to meet Willie Mays and stuff, so I got some cool stuff. But the thing was, when I was in college, I was the head umpire of La Jolla Little League. So UC San Diego was in La Jolla. I wasn't wealthy, I was a student. But UCSD is, everybody goes, where'd you grow up? I said La Jolla, and they're like, rich kid. And I was like, no, not really. Medium. I mean, my dad did play professional football. I didn't suffer, but it wasn't quite like what you think. But I'd always worked with kids. And so I was working, and like I said, it's cool working for the NBA and seeing seeing Michael Jordan all the time, seeing Shaq, largest man I've ever stood next to. It's cool. But it's not a lifestyle, it's not a family, it's not facilitating lifestyle for you to do something. Because eventually you get to the point and you go, Michael, hey Michael, hey Brian, I go do my thing, he goes, shoot baskets. And that's it. For one, I don't want to seem materialistic, but they don't pay you well. You pay for the privilege of seeing Michael Jordan every day. Well, you start to learn that some of these people are really cool, some of these people are really jerks. They're just regular people. And some of them they all have their own personality traits. It didn't facilitate any kind of family because you had to move a lot. If I did the Arizona Fall League. So I go from the Arizona Fall League to hockey, in Minnesota. Who wants to be in Minnesota in the winter, but that's when they play hockey. That kind of thing. And you're constantly moving, so you unpack to repack, and it's no fun. So that kind of got tiresome. And then it's very cutthroat. I did radio broadcasting with a guy by the name of John Emmett, who all the broadcasting knowledge and experience that I have, I owe to John Emmett. He was wonderful. But for me to advance, because everybody wants to be Howard Stern, Bob Costas, Dick Enberg. They want to be the national names. But to get there, I'd have to tell the people I'm applying for jobs and go, yeah, Emmett kind of sucked, and he messed up plays all the time. I'm not like that. John was a great guy. I wouldn't have the knowledge I have if it weren't for John, and it's not in my nature to want to cut him on that. So I decided to go back to school to San Diego State to get my master's degree to be a teacher, because I've always worked with kids. And I was living there for a while, and I was started in getting my master's degree, and then my dad called me. My dad, after he quit San Diego, playing for the Chargers, my dad's a little bit insane. He didn't like San Diego, because 72-degree weather all the time is, it's tough to live on. He actually moved to Marshall, and he moved to Marshall because my grandparents, his parents, lived there. And he liked it. He was actually from West Texas. In fact, when he went to SMU for football, it was from El Paso. So, the tumbleweeds and the dry and stuff like that. And he loved the trees in East Texas and stuff like that. And the cost of living, of course, as you guys all know, is not crazy out here. especially compared to San Diego. So he moved there. Well, again, parents divorced and stuff. I've been coming back to Marshall since I've been 10, and I'm almost 50 now, to visit Dad and stuff like that. Well, he called me up and said, Bryan, his business is growing and he needs some help. Would you like to help him? I said, sure. School was tough and money was super tight again in San Diego. So I moved out in '95. Got here the night before the Chargers got beaten to death in the Super Bowl by the 49ers. So a very distinct memory there. And I started working with my dad. I worked with my dad for 10 years. My mom was a city commissioner when we lived in Laguna Beach. And she always taught me, don't complain if you can't, be part of the solution. I ran for city commissioner. I was a city commissioner in Marshall and stuff like that. Well, at the time, I didn't even realize there was a Boys and Girls Club in Marshall. And so one of the guys who was on the board called me up, and they wanted some visibility, and of course, city commissioner and all that stuff. They said, Bryan, we need an executive director. Would you be interested? I said, well, tell me about it. And they talked to me, and they talked to my dad, because my dad and I were friends. And he says, yeah, sure. They talked to me, and my dad said, yeah, you've always been meant to work with kids. So I said, okay, interviewed, and I got the job. I've been there for 13 years. And when I started 13 years ago, we were one site with about a $250,000 budget, about 80 kids a day. Now going on to, and I'll come back to that in just a minute, because as you guys might or might not know, we started branching out, and we did open this school year in September. We opened a Boys and Girls Club here thanks to the help of the Gilmer ISD, of course. We opened a Boys and Girls Club here in Gilmer. And I'll tell you about all we do, but a lot of people don't know about a Boys and Girls Club. They're like, what is Boys and Girls Club? I heard of it, I don't know what it does. Boys and Girls Club is after school enrichment, is basically what it is. I've always seen us as being a complement to the school day. And I'll get into some of the things that we do, but overall, Boys and Girls Club is a 100-year-old organization. It was started in Rhode Island by nuns. A bunch of nuns got together and they said, we don't like seeing these boys, because it used to be a boys club a long time ago, but we don't like to see these boys around pool halls smoking and playing pool, which is interesting because I've got like 3 pool tables in the clubs. So it's a little bit, But we teach, we suffer from, and if you look on your table, those are the flyers I gave you about what we do, because one of the things that we suffer from all the time is people are like, oh, glorified babysitting. Or, in the other instance, if you happen to be at a club that has a pool and say, oh, gym and swim, that's all you do. And a lot of people don't understand that Boys and Girls Club has some really great programming that we do after school for parents that's evidence-based. And let me explain the evidence-based. I mean, you guys are all smart. I'm sure you know what evidence-based means. But what evidence-based means in the nonprofit world is your programs have been shown to make a difference in a child's life or in anybody's life, if it's evidence-based. Most of our programs at the Boys and Girls Club are evidence-based. So that means A, the federal government sees us as impacting kids, and B, it makes us eligible for a lot of grants, the federal grants. We have, of course, they're competitive, we have to apply for them, but we make a difference in the kids' lives. So we work on character and leadership. We have these main heading categories. Character and leadership, education and career. We do the arts, because we don't want to forget about the arts, those are always very important. Healthy lifestyles, and then it's arts and computers, because the way technology is going. And we do these different programs. I mean, we have, just to give you an idea, we have programs at the Boys and Girls Club that are Smart Moves. Smart Moves is drug and alcohol awareness, evidence-based. It's shown to make a difference in a kid's life. We have a program, it's funny, at our table we were talking about how good kids are getting at doing this. And not realizing that you can actually, Madden football is good, but you can actually go out and throw a football. That's a real thing, We have a program called Triple Play. Triple Play, interestingly enough, it's about healthy lifestyles. Triple Play was created and sponsored by Coke, so healthy lifestyles, I don't know that balance. But the idea is moderation for the kids. To teach them, because this is the second generation of kids whose average lifespan has decreased. On the average, I'm supposed to die at 72. My son is supposed to die at 68. It's going down, not increasing. So Boys and Girls Club came up with this program called Triple Play with Coke to help get kids active. And it's a moderation program. And again, it's not condemning everything. Eating chips isn't bad, but carrots aren't too bad either, an apple. It gives them those healthy choices for their life. It's not bad to do this, but you can actually go out and exercise too and see the fun of exercising and stuff. But they have programs, like I said, in all these, we have a litany of about 75 programs that they do. And our kids at the club are doing robotics. They're making movies. We have a program called Clay Tech where kids do claymation movies. I mean, they're writing the script and they're doing a backdrop and then stop animation, stuff like that. They're doing that. We have coding classes. We have leadership classes. I mean, we send kids, our teens, we have 2 teen centers, one in Longview, one in Marshall, and we send teens all over the place. I mean, we don't do, and I don't mean to say we don't just do, because that sounds like I'm being disparaging towards ETBU or Laterno or Wiley, because those are all awesome schools, but all of our kids have seen them. We've got such great partnerships with ETBU and Wiley and TSTC, but all of our kids have seen them. So when we take them on college trips, I mean, last year, we got a grant for this, and we took our kids to Alabama and Mississippi State and LSU and University of Georgia, and I'm trying to remember the route they took, and then Tallahassee, Florida State, and then they went to, I think Missouri was the last one, and then they came back. And they did it over the break. It cost our kids not one nickel, other than if they wanted to buy a LSU t-shirt kind of thing. Their food was covered, their room and board were covered, and it got them to see something different. Because when you live in East Texas, you know, Gilmer's small, Marshall's small, Hallsville's small, all these communities that we serve are smaller. And we want kids to see the big, I want kids to go, now, before I say this, remember, I'm from California, so I don't want this UT A&M, I'm not in that battle. I'm neutral on that, I don't have, but I want to take our kids to UT because I want them to see that the population of Marshall is 25,000, and the undergraduate population of UT is 50,000. I want them to see the bigness and the competitiveness of what college takes. And because one of the things that's always disparaging is when you have a limited view, sometimes you have a limited view. And what I mean by that is, I went to our site in Jefferson. My niece goes to Jefferson, and I was talking to one of the kids there, and it was like a 9-year-old, because he was just a little bit younger than Carly. I said, what do you want to be when you grow up? He said, I want to be a manager. Manager? Oh, really? What do you want to do? McDonald's, right on the corner. That was his aspirations. And I'm not saying that's bad. I love that the kid has a work ethic and wants to do something with his life. But that was the extent of it. He didn't say, I want to be an astronaut, or I want to be a banker, or I want to be a teacher, I want to be a physicist, whatever. I want to work at McDonald's. So you have that limited view. So we want to help try to give them the phrase that Boys and Girls Club often uses is hope and opportunity. And we want to give these kids hope, that there is something available for them, regardless of any circumstance that they live in, an opportunity to see all that stuff. A quick thing on our history. I'll give you a quick history because we are, interestingly enough, I did the math. I'm not really good at math, but I did the math. We're actually in our 25th year of existence. We started off as the Boys and Girls Club, singular, of Harrison County in 1992. I started with the club in 2005, halfway mostly through 2005, 2006. So that's when I've been there. The club was founded by, for any of you guys know anything about Marshall, and the Carlisle family, which is the family in Marshall. But they're also, you know, yes, they're wealthy, but they're also extraordinarily generous. I mean, it was founded by Steve and Ken Carlisle. It's an Oil family. And Steve and Ken it's not uncommon that they come to the club and serve dinner to the kids. You know, our kids don't know that a billionaire is serving dinner, but they're not just here, let me write you a check and get away from you, leave me alone. They're, let me write you a check and tell me what else I can do right now. So they are just wonderful people. Well, they started the club, they saw a need in Marshall and started there. And then I got hired and I said, well, gosh, the poorest community in our area is Jefferson, as you guys might not know. Average income in Jefferson is now, last year it was less than $10,000, now it's just above $10,000 a year. So yeah, think about what you make, and then say $10,000 a year. And there's some abject poverty there. So I was like, why aren't we in Jefferson? That's crazy. Well, long story short is I started getting active. And again, this is where I say my board allowed me to do, my staff is incredible. We started getting out there. We started looking at communities that needed us. We started talking to school districts because, much like we are here in Gilmer working with the school district, Jefferson's never, and I keep using Jefferson as an example, but Jefferson's never going to have the donor base to support its own building or anything like that. So we started partnering with the schools. Because again, as I said earlier, we're an extension of the school day. Do I think that, we've had really great success rates. We've had 100% advancement of our kids from one grade to the other. And is that because of us? Oh, the schools are just terrible. It's because of us, right? No. We complement what the school's doing. And as you can see from the sheet I left on your desk, any parent, any educator should want their kids going somewhere that's constructive, that's controlled after school, as opposed to going to an empty house. I don't ever like to get doom and gloomy, but the one doom and gloom stat that I do have is from the Children's Defense Fund, that and every day 4 million kids go home alone, where their chance of being involved in a crime or a victim of crime triples. Those are, great odds if you're going to the boats. Sucky odds if you're a kid that's going to get hurt or in trouble or anything like that. And a lot of the, everybody always thinks about the worst case scenario of, oh my gosh, a murderer, a molester, a terrorist, anything like that. But we're talking about kids who just, I have nothing to do and I'm just going to throw rocks, and I threw it at a car because I'm a kid and don't have sense. We had this actually happen in Marshall. A kid had $5 in his pocket, and his friend challenged him to go to Walmart and steal a candy bar. Well, of course, Walmart they lay that hammer down if you steal a candy bar, anything. And he had $5 in his pocket, and he got in trouble for stealing a candy bar. I mean, it's just the dopey stuff that kids can do because they don't have any sense. And I mean that all due respect. As a father of a 10-year-old, I can tell you it's out of experience. So we wanted to get into these communities, and we partner with the schools to get in it. Well, since then, we've grown rapidly. So earlier when I said we have one site and 80 kids a day, we do about 1,500 kids a day with a total enrollment of about 4,000 kids. We're in 20 sites covering 1,300 square miles with a $2 million budget. So we've grown a lot. And again, that's not a, hey, Bryan, you're awesome, you grew a lot. No, it's serving the kids that need us most. And that serving the kids that need us most could be a different thing. I've been referencing Jefferson and poverty in Jefferson. But the problems they have there is when we had our council meeting, and I'll tell you about councils in a minute, but our council meeting in White Oak, they were talking about, they have a huge problem with bullying. So we're focusing in White Oak about how we can make sure kids don't get bullied and what programming we can do to help with the bullying side of things. The problem they have in Mount Pleasant. Mount Pleasant when I do my demographic numbers, Mount Pleasant is more Latino than any other race. High Latino. They were suffering from helping parents, these kids who are still having trouble, who are English speakers kind of, but they're still not fully speaking English well, they're fully not integrating well into an English speaking society kind of thing. So we can explain to them and help them better integrated. So it's all different problems that we're hitting in different areas. White Oak, huge drug problem, meth problem, huge meth problem. So we're trying to do, that's where our Smart Moves program comes in, is it integrates there a little bit. So we hit different problems in different areas, but a typical day, let me tell you how a typical day goes and how we do this. First of all, a typical day, the kids get there to the site, we feed them. That's super important to me. The largest, second largest backpack program in the East Texas area is in Hallsville. Remember Hallsville? Hallsville's those rich people, right? Hallsville? They're the rich? No, not necessarily. Well, I mean, yes, but yes, there are for sure. But no, not necessarily, because everybody says, oh, we're Hallsville, or we're Gilmer. We're all integrated, and we know there's a lot of food instability for kids. And the local Optimist Club does the backpack program. Well, they did a challenge for us. They were doing a fundraiser, and they said, here's what I want you to do. We want you guys to fast for 24 hours. 24 hours. My wife and I, okay, sure, whatever. You can have water and you can have broth. That's all you can have. Okay, fine. So my wife and I did it, and I was grumpy, and my head hurt, and my stomach was burping, and I knew, and it was terrible. And we gave them a lot of money. We're like, this is terrible. And that was 24 hours, and I knew as an adult that I had a fridge that I could, okay, this is dumb, I get it, I'm going to go get food. You're talking about a kid going home over the weekend, a 9-year-old, an 8-year-old that can't cope with this stuff. And they come in and they're hungry all weekend because the only food they get is from the Boys and Girls Club or from school. And then they get in trouble at school and you're like, well, yeah, no kidding. I understand. Well, I would have gotten in trouble at school. I would have gone in and talked to my kid's teacher and got in trouble if you can't expect a kid to think. So food instability is a real issue. And it's really important to me that we address that. Then we do homework. Homework is super important. Help them every day. We make sure, and that's not only obviously because, my kid is an athlete. He's a very good athlete. But if Noah doesn't have good grades, he doesn't play. School is the most important because I don't care how good of an athlete he is. He can be the best athlete you guys have ever seen. Like Bo Jackson, awesome. And then he blows out his knee and he becomes the best, almost athlete, the best player on the playground. You know what I mean? So education, your mind is super important. So we make sure that Noah, grades are important. And that goes with any kid. And that's not only because of school. It's also because we live in such a high, our area has a large number, throughout East Texas, it's a general stat, has high single-parent households. So having those single moms who come home and, okay, they've worked all day, and they're coming home, and they're doing dinner, feeding the kids, and they gotta help their kids with homework, and oh, it's such a harass, you know, and then of course, as these kids are getting smarter, I know some of the stuff Noah's doing, I'm smarter than I am. It's like, I don't know how you do this, I need to look it up. So we've got to, you know, so we help in that aspect. Then after that, the kids break off into their different age groups, and we'll do those different programs. And the way we do our programming is we allow the local people, the local classes, the local staff, to do what's important to you guys. For example, in Gladewater, I should say, Gladewater is big on soccer. So we do a soccer program there. Longview, our South Longview sites, they're big on dance. They do the step and the dance and stuff like that, so we do dance. Now, that's not the only thing we do. Of course, like I said, we'll integrate the triple play program. We'll integrate the drug and alcohol, the drug and alcohol stuff from Smart Move and stuff like that. We'll do cooking classes. We've done Taekwondo. Those are the kinds of things we do, but it's what's interesting to the kids. And the other thing that's great about this, of course, is because we are there, because parents have to work. We stay at each site 3 hours every day after the bell rings. So in most cases, we're there at minimum till 6 p.m., which really helps the parents. Because I always say the Boys and Girls Club is about 90% for parents, I mean for kids, I should say, and 10% for parents, that kind of thing. So that's the way our typical day goes. Now, sometimes we have summer camps, and we're hoping to possibly have one here in Gilmer. I'll keep you abreast on that. Now, how do we pay for this? This is where I said I'm not asking you for money, I'm telling you. One of the things that we did is, I was lucky enough 2 summers ago to get into Harvard Business School. Name dropping. No. It's always nice to go to Harvard. It's a really cool opportunity, but one of the things we had to do was a project. And my project was rural fundraising. Well, in our area, there's approximately, the whole area that I cover, the population is about 352,000 people. Well, what I came up with is this concept called microphilanthropy, kind of the Walmart theory of fundraising. Rather than get one person to give me $1 billion, I'm going for 1 billion people to give me $1. I mean, it's an easier ask. I mean, not easy to ask 1 billion people, but it's an easier ask. It's more palatable to everybody's budget and stuff like that. And we came up with, what I came up with for our club is some cutesy names. You know, to give it, we got Circle 10, $10 a month, $120 a year. Kids Fund, $25 a month, $300 a year. And then Life Changers is $83.33 a month. And that's $1,000 a year. That's odd because 83, 33 times 12. But I'm telling you that for this example. As I mentioned, there's 352,000 people in my service area of all where my clubs are. If I can get 1% of those people, 3,250 people, if I get 1% of them to join the Kids Fund, that's $1 million or $1.1 million fundraiser. I don't have to do golf, tournaments, and worry about the weather. Oh, the weather sucks and golf is not going to be good. I do a barbecue in Jefferson. I don't have to worry about, it's a state championship barbecue, by the way, so if you're ever in the area, it's awesome. But I don't have to worry about the barbecue. I don't have to worry, we do a half marathon for Hallsville. Those don't become necessities on the fundraising side. They become visibility things where people go, oh, great, you have a Boys and Girls Club here, what do you do? And we can educate people about what the club does and how we change lives. So it was a good opportunity. So that's one way we pay for it. And slowly we're building up on that, because one of the other things I'll tell you about the recurring giving model is that the recurrence rate is 98.5%. So basically, once I get you in, you're like, oh yeah, $25 a month, that's a couple of Starbucks, I'm not to the Starbucks, or something like that. And you're doing it's going to a good cause with good visibility in what we do throughout the community. So that's the first thing. And of course, we do grants and stuff like that. That's how we pay for it. But the other thing, this is a commercial for any of you guys write this down. Originally from Southern California, like I told you, In-N-Out Burgers, best burgers in the world. They're so good. Well, there was no In-N-Out Burgers here. I grew up on In-N-Out Burgers. I called them up and I was looking at possibility of doing a franchise on, Marshall we got right, but 59 and I-20, great location. I said, I'm going to do In-N-Out Burgers. And, and I talked to the board about this, and they're like, how much will this be, Brian? And I said, well, it'll be about $5 million. And they said, no. Really quick, I mean, it's like, that's how long the discussion was. I didn't even get to present facts. The average In-N-Out Burger makes $900,000 a year, the average In-N-Out Burger. Based on our location and the fact that there's no competition, no other In-N-Out Burgers, we'd probably do well. And I said, imagine this, board. To my board, I was like, imagine this. Your job this year is to raise $12 because In-N-Out Burgers has made a gajillion dollars for us. So we go for about 5 years, breaking even, not making any money. Year 6, we're rolling in the dough, rolling the burgers. You know, that kind of thing. But again, because of the cost and all that stuff, they said, no, well, I shift my direction another way. I said, well, what can we do, though, that would bring in money that's not business related? Well, we bought a screen printing business. We have a gentleman, BGC Shirts, and that's my commercial, bgcshirts.org. Did you get that up? bgcshirts.org. But we started doing screen printing, and now we're doing screen printing across the country. Last year, our profit was about $75,000. Now, $75,000 is not a huge amount in a $2.1 million budget, but it's certainly good and it's certainly profitable, and as it grows, we do it. But I mean, people like my board always gives me, well, Bryan, you don't have time. I don't do shirts. I'm not artistic. I'm really lame. If I did your shirts, we'd be out of business. We have a professional who does shirts. He's done shirts for 25 years. In fact, if you guys have ever seen the ETVU Tiger Eyes logo, he created that. He's super talented. His name's Bill Bean. Bill runs the program. After we pay our staff, all the profits go to the club. Same concept as in burger, just not as delicious. So we wanted to, so we've done that and we've grown it. So like I said, my commercial is if you ever need shirts, give us a look, because I mean our prices are really good. Kind of in the same idea that I was telling you about how I go for the micro-philanthropy and getting a lot of people at a low. Our prices are really low. We do a lot of volume at BGC Shirts, and we bring, you know, so we get a lot rolling through, which in essence, A, we give good prices, Bill does great, you know, he will great quality on shirts and stuff like that, or shirts and hoodies and all that. But he ultimately, you know, the profit goes to help support our kids and our programming that we do. And so it's just another avenue of, because I mean, $2 million, when I looked at our budget this year, I was like, $2 million, that's pretty huge. But we have the avenues to do it, and, you know, with grants and stuff like that, and some of the events and all of it. Now, the last thing I will tell you, I'll give you my one success, I'll give you my one ask of you guys, because I do have one small ask, and then I'll tell you, I like finishing with, you know, Tony Gonzalez from the formerly NFL, you know, Tony Gonzalez, he was a Boys and Girls Club kid, and I have a great quote from him, or actually a paraphrase. I told you about the 100% grade progression. The other one that I'm really proud of, and my favorite group of kids, are teenagers. Because teenagers are just, with all due respect, big knuckleheads that are just bigger than me. They still have kid thoughts and they don't have the experiences of adults, but they're bigger than you, so you expect so much of them. So what we ended up doing is, at our teen centers, in the last 13 years, we've had one kid not graduate high school, and of all those kids, 85 have matriculated somewhere. I'm not saying college all the time, sometimes it's TSTC, technical college, sometimes it's the military, but life after high school. We want to make it so, oh, here's high school, it's a stopping point. No, so many people have done that. There's more opportunities for you to advance. So we've been pretty successful in that. That's my one brag. Now, I want to ask of you before I close, and you know, anybody's interested, certainly please talk to me. Each community that I serve has a local council. Hallsville, Boston, Marshall, Longview, etc. They run the things locally. And the way I make an analogy for this is we have a board of governors, which are the big bosses, which are made up of people, by the way, from every community we serve. We don't want any community ever feeling like they're not part of the success of the Boys and Girls Club. That's my 5-minute call. 5 minutes? 5 minutes? So they have perfect time. So what we create local councils. And the local councils are the heart, and with no insult meant, the Board of Governors is the brains. And what I mean by that is the Board of Governors has to look at things rationally. Oh my gosh, the numbers in Jefferson are low. We've got to either bring them up or close Jefferson. They have to be the business side. Where the people in Jefferson, on the Jefferson Council go, you can't close Jefferson. The need here is too much. Here's what we're doing for kids. And they're the local rallying point. We are forming a Gilmer Council. The requirements, I can tell you, I'll give you the brief overview. The briefest one is we meet bi-monthly. So every other month, we'd ask you to meet and help advocate for the club. Love to have anybody. Janice was at my meeting the other day. She can tell you, it's not crazy of what we're asking for anybody, but if you'd love to be a part of this and be part of our success, I'd love to talk to you after this real briefly. Now finally, I'll finish because I know I'm short on time. I used to be a president of Rotary. I know how important it is to get everybody out on time. But Tony Gonzalez, like I said, was a club kid. He graduated from UC Berkeley. He was inducted into the Boys and Girls Club Hall of Fame. In a couple of years, he's going to go into the NFL Hall of Fame for sure. But one of the things he said, and I'll paraphrase for you, but he said, you know, I was lucky enough to have a platform every Sunday because I was on TV, and I'm lucky enough to be born 6'9" and athletic. He goes, but think about this. Think about all the kids who go through the Boys and Girls Club who are not athletic. Think of all the Boys and Girls Club kids who are not 6'9", who pay their taxes, who graduate high school, who go on to something beyond high school, who have healthy relationships because of the club. That's the impact we make. We're not looking at, we love that we have Denzel Washington and Brad Pitt and Michael Jordan and Muhammad Ali. I can name Jennifer Lopez and so many people who are Boys and Girls Club kids. And that's great. It's great having all those names on your marquee. But the millions and millions and millions of kids who are not on any marquee, but are normal kids, normal tax-paying families, they're raising their kids right, that's the impact that we make. I thank you guys for your time.